Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, June 21st. Starting late because while I was awake early and even recorded a second episode, 2 hours this time between Wednesday and today of the Doom 2016, which feels like the level I'm on right now is amazingly better than all the other levels up until that point. We'll talk about that later maybe. I was up early and then recorded that and then was taking what felt like I was only going to take an hour break, and then it very quickly turned into a 4-hour nap. Guess we need to play rogue class cards. We had gotten the weekly tavern brawl on the America's account here, so really I only need to focus on playing rogue cards. So tempo rogue is what I guess we're going for here. Now, in all reality, yes, I should be getting more than 1 or 2 hours worth of recording done in a day. There's not a lot of excuses I can make to that other than just I'm pacing myself, and Doom 2016 in particular is not that interesting of a game. There's something I suppose to be said about that too. Yeah. The level I'm on Doom 2016 feels like it was the first level and the only level they had intended on making. And what happened is, at some point in mid-production, this one level that was going to be kind of just this short, extremely short, like 2-hour tutorial, single-player mission for the multiplayer, that got expanded out, and it's expanded out in such a way that justice is mine. That it's really questionable how I could go back to the previous levels and not just run through them extremely fast. And maybe that's the feeling that people got, and the mainstream video game critics got when they played Doom 2016, is maybe they played it on easy the first time, and then they're playing their second game playthrough, and in their second game playthrough, things changed enough that it was a different a different experience. I could see that, although I really don't want to go back and play the levels. I got the BFG 9000, which I thought was not a gun I was going to get, considering the weapon selection wheel doesn't have room for it. Instead, the BFG is its own separate weapon, which makes the whole setup rather ridiculous, because it is Y on the Xbox controller for the BFG. It's X to bring up the chainsaw. The chainsaw is used to get more bullets. The BFG doesn't really do anything. The bullets are extremely limited for the BFG, and only in the level in which you got it have I run into any kind of collection of enemies that were either strong enough or in enough great numbers that it would make sense to use it. Previous sections have always had medium to small numbers of characters and on the screen, and when you're interacting with most of the fights, you're you're getting very small numbers of enemies that summon in waves of 3, which makes me think that the id Tech engine actually can't handle too many varieties of AI enemies on the screen at one time, which I suspect is the truth, since I've also been able to see that the id Tech engine seems to lack the ability to handle players standing on a platform while it's moving, or like fast loading levels, or loading in the background level data. In fact, it doesn't even seem like it can handle the level that I'm on in one load, so you have to go through this elevator in the middle of it, and it shows you this cutscene, but the cutscene is something you've never seen before up until this point, and it clearly is there to hide a load section. It's really obvious.
Ha, this guy's toast.
Let's see. Might as well play this.
Justice is mine.
So yeah, I'm in this weird position where I don't like the id Tech engine. I think Doom 2016 could have easily been made in Unreal. I don't like the level design. The level design, even in the current level I'm playing on, I believe it's the name of the level is Lazarus, but I'm not 100% sure.
Blood and blood and blood.
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
Let's see. This is a 3, this is a 3. Let's try this. That's probably the best you could have gotten, quite frankly. Right. And then I guess if we do this and
Justice
kill
is
this,
mine.
Hey,
then I can get that. Yeah, the levels still don't feel like Doom levels. There was a whole laser dodging section stolen out of a Resident Evil game. A lot of what is happening in Doom 2016 feels like it is directly stolen from Dead Space. I wouldn't be surprised if the entirety of the game started in development after Dead Space 1 happened. There is this stone that is a central focus, just like in Dead Space.
hey, lights out.
Although there's also things that clearly they should have done or were probably hoping to do and didn't get around to doing. Things like having the dead bodies that are lying around get up and become animated by some other kind of summoner style creature, or something like that. There's no real tactical dismemberment in Doom like in Dead Space. That whole element is not copied, but there is a stone. Just like Dead Space, there is what seems to be a cryptic religion that's happening versus a corporation that seems to have this cult-like mentality and very possibly be based off of some other form of religion too. So there might be kind of a heaven worshipping religion, and then there's definitely a human sacrifice demonic worshipping religion. There's a feeling that the Doomslayer as a key character might be in a different universe, or might be hundreds of thousands of years in the future compared to where things were in the original Doom 1, 2, and 3, which I assume all of that is still canon. I wouldn't be surprised if actually they were to get rid of Doom 3 as being canon, though. So, yeah. There was definitely a level I ran through and I missed 50% of the map. And just because I didn't go and look. The game didn't need you to go there, so I didn't go there. It's really questionable if I was to go back to that level, which is actually only a few levels back, whether I would be able to run through that very quickly with the BFG and just having all my weapons upgraded. Most of my weapons are approaching 70 to 80% upgraded, although some upgrades require you to do certain challenges, and it just doesn't feel like there's enough game that exists for these challenges to actually be done in one playthrough. The whole game feels like it has a lot of obligatory challenges and collectibles that shouldn't be in the game, and it would have been better if the game was just a quicker experience. And it feels a little weird that Doom Eternal is coming out instead of there being a expansion for Doom 2016, or just more levels being added to Doom 2016. Their focus on Snap Map, which is not a thing that really matters to me at all, clearly didn't work in any real way to convince people that Snap Map should be a thing. Let's just go ahead and attack here, and then end the turn. But even if there are some well-made Snap Map levels, in the same way there probably were some great custom well, I know there's hundreds if not thousands of great custom Doom levels. None of them get the kind of focus and attention that you would get from something like episode 2 or episode 3 or episode 4 of the original Doom. And so you have this weird situation where Doom 2016 feels like, what if they took episode 1 of the original Doom and then stretched out the same number of levels or fewer, made them a lot bigger for no real good reason, because often they are bigger in just how many meters from point A to point B, but then extremely narrow hallway sections where there's not a lot of room for enemies to wander around and fight you, and very often not any enemies around at all.
Justice is mine. How much is this worth to you?
Okay. So yeah, I'm just chugging along. I got into a bathroom section in Doom 2016. Thought that flushing, the automatic flushers on the bathroom, might give me an achievement. Found a head in a toilet. Thought that might give me an achievement. There are no achievements like that on Steam. I found 2 secret mini games. One called Turkey Puncher, where you just hit a button over and over again. One that's actually a match 3 game using the old Doom sprites There was an actual challenge for doing the match 3 game in that level. I don't believe there was any kind of challenge around playing Turkey Puncher. It's weird to see Easter eggs in a game that seems like it is lacking actual content. Like, it's weird to see polishing the Easter eggs that most people will miss.
One's out on me.
Your opponent's back.
So yeah, we're working our way up the ranks, and it seems like we're getting victories faster than we're playing rogue classes, which is fun. There's really no reason to draw this out. Let's start going through the news. Yeah, we have a game here on Steam called Rydo. What is this? There's some other games I want to talk about. This looks like a really zoomed in platformer with a unique art style. Kind of has that Binding of Isaac feeling, and the first half of the entire trailer is just darkness. And then a slide puzzle. Is that really all you got to show? What's funny here is this is more visually polished than most platformers. So, at the risk of lowering my standards, I'm gonna put this on the follow list. $4.99 English with full audio, apparently. There were a couple other games I wanted to talk about, come to think of it. We are now pretty much almost a week out. Like I would say as of Thursday, which is yesterday, we apparently hit a 4 or 5 day grace period. Maybe all the news as far as video game news gets published on Thursday or the Thursday after E3. One would assume that if you wanted to bury story, you would publish it late on Friday. If you wanted a story to potentially have full week coverage, you would publish it early Monday or mid-Monday. But apparently Thursday is the time that they chose, and for that there have been 2 very noteworthy actual games that have come out. One is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which I watched a video talking about kind of the Kickstarter and the backing of that, and right now it seems like everybody really likes what is it? Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Yeah, they seem to be loving it. There is, I think, some disappointment in how they handled their efforts. I had not realized that the same groups of companies that worked together to do the Mighty Number 9 Kickstarter were the same ones that did the Bloodstained Kickstarter, or that Bloodstained in particular announced itself right after Konami had, oh man, I screwed that up.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
I could have been an 8-8 easily. Konami just had pulled PT like the day before Bloodstained's Kickstarter went out. Bloodstained is made from the person who made the Castlevania games that I think most Castlevania game players want to play. It looks like an amazing game. It has a bunch of backers, but there is a certain level of bloat that it started running into after it had been funded, because it was funded really fast, started to promise a lot of other platform releases that weren't reasonable or likely to commit to doing. Mac releases, Linux releases in particular, when that got canceled, that was something that could be quite irksome compared to, say, the Wii U release or port, where there's clearly not that many people that play on the Wii U. I'd argue not that many people play on Mac or Linux either, but if I did have a Mac or Linux, I would definitely try to play Bloodstained. How's this gonna work? I can do 2 damage now, and then that gives me a weapon. I could get a weapon now.
Justice is mine.
So yeah, it doesn't seem like Mighty Number 9 level as far as the quality of game, but Bloodstained was most definitely delayed quite a bit and had several different companies working on several different aspects, and the game, because it was so overfunded, really became something close to a AAA developed game, and then you run into the problems of all the things you usually don't see happening in the background of a AAA game happening in this game. Well, do I want to play this? I think I should.
Justice is mine.
The Brotherhood shall prevail. Job's done.
Interesting. I really didn't plan for that to happen. The other game that came out is what is it? I know. Oh, Cadence of Hyrule for the Nintendo Switch. With its easy mode, which I'm hoping there's an easy mode in Flash Crypto the Necrodancer. If there's an easy mode in Crypto the Necrodancer, like the easy mode in Cadence of Hyrule, I think there might be some reason to play Crypto the Necrodancer for me. That being said, I would say Cadence of Hyrule is not a roguelike or roguelite game in the way that Crypto the Necrodancer is. It is screens that are very specifically designed to be either combat screens or puzzle screens, where you have to move on a beat, where I suspect all of Crypto the Necrodancer is just combat screens. So there's a disconnect, I think, to that. Do 1 damage to all minions, that won't do anything. Summon 2. Do that. Oh darn it, I played the card way too early.
Justice is mine.
Job's done.
So yeah, Cadence of Hyrule is a Switch only game, but a real game that I don't know if you call it perhaps a indie game with the support of Nintendo behind it is the best bet, and the license of Legend of Zelda characters. It doesn't seem like you spend too much time playing as the main character of Crypto the Necrodancer if you don't want to. So yeah, Yeah, that looks really good as far as the game too. So video games are back, and it puts you in puts me in a position where I look back and think about E3, and frankly, I'm getting to the point where I can't remember any of the games. It's just easy come, easy go. I've now forgotten almost everything that was mentioned at E3. None of what was shown or mentioned really matters, because until it's out, it's not out. It's a very binary state in my mind, at least. It's either a game is not out and it could come out tomorrow, or it could come out 100 years from now, or never, and each is as equally possible. Well, not 100 years, but it could be tomorrow or 10 years from now easily. Or a game is out, and if a game is out, is it really out, or is it in early access or an unfinished state out? Which so many games have that problem too. I suppose as just a follow-up, I looked at the Borderlands 1 characters. I don't think we have any other Borderlands news today. Yeah, with the exception of maybe Mr. Shank, the Psycho, Mad Moxie, and Lilith, most of the characters in Borderlands 1, 2 are mostly covered up in their clothing. So it just seems like that's more of an art style than anything. There has been a small shift, but it is an incredibly small shift between Lilith showing more cleavage and a bare belly, and what Maya was wearing was she was covered up. And it seems like the shift hasn't gone to any more extremes. So I don't think that there's really a controversy there. This might just be the growing, developing taste of one artist, or a shift between different artists. That being said, reports have come out that Tifa Lockhart's cleavage has either been reduced, or from what I hear, since they're using the Unreal Engine, they've put her flesh material of her busts inside a sports bra, which, using the materials programming that occurs inside of the Unreal Engine, has caused it to look more constrained. This is almost a unimportant distinction in the long run. Not Sony, but Square Enix this time apparently has an ethics department, which seems odd. And this ethics department said to tone down the boobs. Square Enix also did the same thing with Lara Croft. In the end, I don't think there's a huge amount to complain about Lara Croft's cleavage in the reboots, as much as complaining about just how the Lara Croft series didn't really feel like much of a Lara Croft game and became a first-person shooter. It's hard to not mock Square Enix for having an ethics department when some of their games involve characters that are murdering thousands upon thousands of virtual characters. And so yeah, there's definitely some weirdness there, and you could certainly, and I could see myself even making this argument, but I have a hard time sustaining it. I could say this is someone's artistic vision being censored from internally from their own company and their own ethics department, but when you're talking about a corporate product and something that is being developed by a team, that's a reasonable argument to make, but it's not anything different from the way things have always been. I'm sure the creator of the Senran Kagura series, for instance, wanted at times to do even more extreme character models and was told no, and that's from his own internal company, and that's in part why he, I think, quit, if I remember that story right.
Lapdog! All of it!
It does, however, show a nice historical shift here, where in the time in which Square Enix made Final Fantasy VII and the time now where they're remaking it, the standards have changed in what can only be described as a truly regressive way of invoking body shaming and just puritanical
Lapdogs!
thinking.
Justice is mine.
It is Tifa Lockhart's cleavage is not out of the realm of being anatomically possible. There's plenty of women around the world that do have large busts, and they shouldn't become a hidden minority in representation. Oddly, I just saw there was a survey. Most Japanese people seem to prefer, most Japanese men prefer curvy hips and big butts more than they do busts. So this is really
Up to no good. Me too.
a case of
This
the
guy's
West
toast.
changing how the East do things. And Final Fantasy VII clearly is a game that was designed to appeal to the West, so it's not super surprising that they would continue down that path and try to appeal to the West. The question is changing a character model really appealing to the West, or is it just satisfying a bunch of SJW journalists? And I think in this case it is mostly just satisfying a bunch of SJW journalists, because this really is just the same dead or alive argument over and over again.
Have I got a bomb for you?
Almost certainly we will see a mod that removes the material. It wouldn't, I think, be that hard to do that. And when we see a mod come out that removes the sports bra material on Tifa Lockhart in the remaster, I think you'll see that she'll be bouncing around a lot more as it naturally would occur. And when you account for the fight animations as a brawler character that she is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some really crazy physics because of it, or just a ridiculous amount of bouncing. I feel like that story in particular, though, is an example of a bunch of mainstream video game journalists talking about a backlash against it being changed when there really isn't a backlash, or at least initially there really wasn't a backlash around it being changed. And then a bunch of anti-SJW people making memes and trolls to make fun of the mainstream video game journalists. So we have like two groups who are kind of fighting each other, where the vast majority of regular video game players don't care at all. Same could be said for people decrying whitewashing happening in Pokemon Shield and Sword. For one image here or there of the character who looks very tan, but in the world of Pokemon is still probably just a extremely tan
Justice is mine.
Japanese person in the minds of Japanese people, and only looks like they might be African from a perspective of a Westerner. So, yeah. Yeah. There's really not been a lot of story around that, and there really isn't, I think, a real story around that. It's just a... Let's play a little Paladin. Well, we're kind of winning with Tempo Rogue, too. We might as well just stick with Tempo Rogue. So, I think there's a lot of false narrative stories, for lack of a better description, where there is a false assumption in the title, in the reason that the article is being written in the first place, and the only thing that ever confirms that false assumption is people making fun of people who made that false assumption in the first place. I don't know what we can really do to fix that. But yeah, we've been kind of light on news, so we're really not back to the news cycle that it would have been pre-E3. We're looking at basically every game, so we have a game here called Crazy Driver, which is just an asset flip driving game on a gray platform with randomly spawning people chasing you. Early access, 59 cents, discounted, 20 achievements. Yeah, you can kind of see this is nothing, so that's not going to make it to the follow list.
How much is this worth to you?
Let's go through the rest of the news, because there's really no reason to stretch this out. Might as well wrap up a Friday stream. We have a game here called Garden of Mooj, M-O-O-J. Seems like this is just Slime Rancher, or a clone of Slime Rancher, but worse. Early access, $12.74, discounted, English only. I'm not seeing anything here that's a real game, and this really just feels like this is an asset flip experience. Yeah. I think this is in no way anywhere close to Slime Rancher. So
I'll take that.
So for that reason, Garden of Mooj is not going to make it to the follow list. Gamatsu has an article here, Clannad for Switch. Clannad, most definitely in the top 3 visual novels ever made, is selling for $44.99. Playing a visual novel on the Switch makes some sense, certainly, but it is a little weird, certainly, for a visual novel to come to the eShop or the Switch, which is thought of as a kid-friendly experience. Speaking of that kid-friendly experience, there have been 2 incidences that I don't feel like are really indications of a problem per se. You've seen and heard me say many times that I feel like the games on Steam in particular, and games just I guess on every storefront, every big storefront should be allowed to be sold completely uncensored, but the storefronts themselves should probably be family friendly. Well, 2 games, Senran Kagura Peach Ball, the pinball Senran Kagura game, not Peach Beach, but Peach Ball, has a slightly more covered up cover for its physical packaging, which is questionable where any of that physical packaging would have been anyways. When I think about that seems rather odd that there would be too many storefronts. I imagine Walmart's not picking up that title. And then there's another game that I can't remember the name of that's a visual novel that I believe in the actual game covered up some panties. So there might be the beginnings of a little bit of family-friendly censorship happening in the Nintendo store. But with really only one incident right now, it might have just been a miscommunication in general. I wouldn't be surprised if there was just the assumption that Nintendo would want them to censor things, or if there was perhaps a different reason why they would have censored the game. And it's probably in a visual novel that has just one anime girl in her underwear, so censoring it's not a big deal. At least to the developers.
Let me think.
I assume that anime conviction hasn't happened yet. I forgot the date that was supposed to happen. But I kind of assume when that happens, there will be more things as far as Japanese video games that will get announced or come out.
Justice is mine.
Yeah, actually I don't want to play that right now, so I'm just going to end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam here called Scene, which looks like a Limbo style game where you're just walking and collecting lights. You seem to be able to jump and move backwards and forwards in a 2.5D style gameplay, but not sure I really see anything else. This kind of just looks like an infinite runner with a foreground and background.
Think.
I'm not really seeing a lot here. There might be more of an artistic experience here. This is early access. It's $2.99 discounted. It's English only. I'll put this on the follow list, but this might be me being a little too generous.
No quarter.
Justice is mine.
Let's play this.
I did it.
And
Quickly.
play that. And play that. And play that.
Blood and plunder.
Then end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Steel Swords, a story. This is made with Pixel Maker NV and proud of it, which probably means it's not that good of a game. It's from a recognizable publisher, and it's from Kodakawa as a developer in part. There might be a Metroidvania style gameplay here that makes this potentially worth checking out. Or this could be nothing. The problem with these kind of games is that you could get 3 or 4 of them in a year and they could be good enough. $4 discounted right now, English and Japanese. I will put this on the follow list and see if it's actually good. I have yet to run into a scenario where I feel like Pixel Maker, Pixel Game Maker, what is it called? Pixel Game Maker MV. Yeah, I don't think yet that game is, that software is so bad that it should be out of consideration just in general, like RPG Maker is. We might start to see a lot more Pixel Game Maker clones, and in the same way as we see many RPG Maker games, and that might change my feelings in the next few years on that. Inherently, it is the same idea. Somebody is using a tool and being given a tool that is making it too easy to make a video game, so people think that they can really make video games when they really can't. Alright. Well, I do believe that's everything I need to do on the Americas account, so let's now swap over to the European account. I have no idea when I'm going to actually start breaking up episodes again. Maybe never. Maybe I'll just start releasing videos less often as far as Hearthstone episodes. In theory, I would eventually fall behind because I'm making 5 recordings. Let's get this watch and learn done, hopefully. I'm making 3 recordings over the course of 7 days. So, unless I started only releasing recordings on like a Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday,
Interested in trying something new?
I will always fall behind. So this guy is playing against a low-level Rise of the Shadows single-player character.
Okay, I'll take this and you take that.
So he should be able to win this pretty easily. Next game we have to consider here is called Village Feud, which looks just kind of like an asset flip game. It doesn't look really that good. It's $3.99, English only. Yeah, I really don't see anything here with this low polygon art style and a really giant status bar or skill bar. So yeah, this will not make it to the fall list. We have a game on Steam called Mystery of the Ancients Deadly Cold Collector's Edition for Big Fish Games. So it's been a while since Big Fish Games has put out a hidden object game. So the question here is, what's the price? Is it $13.99? It's $11.69. So we are continuing to see a discounted price that is asking for less for hidden object games. So maybe, just maybe, the cost of hidden object games will continue to go down, and we will be able to have a much better experience. Now that we did that, let's re-roll this. So we need to win 3 games with Rogue Warrior. I did the Tavern Brawl on this off screen yesterday, Wednesday. And so we have 2 classic packs for the European account, which I think is still missing some legendaries, but probably no epics out of the classic packs. So even though these cards are probably just going to get dusted unless there is a legendary in here, it is working towards that 50-pack pity timer to get the last few of these cards that need to be got. And yeah, we can dust all 10 of those cards for a 80 dust, which is a pretty insignificant amount of dust. Rogue or warrior? Alright, so we have a tempo rogue or custom warrior. Let's try custom warrior once and then probably move into a tempo rogue. Warrior was the one that was a pain in the butt anyways. Shouldn't be playing ranked, but I kind of want to play ranked to get up in ranked. Tech Raptor has an article here. Gears 5 won't have a season pass, gear packs, or loot box content, which is good to hear. I don't think I have a story on this, but the guy in charge of Xbox, I think, directly said that Xbox won't be a free speech platform and that they're going to work to make the communities friendly and less hostile. I don't know who ever thought that Xbox was a free speech platform in the first place. It seems like even in the earliest days of Xbox Live, people were getting banned or in trouble for posting hateful, mean things, and there's still a ton of that going on. If anything, I think there is a significant issue that occurred on Xbox Live with angry preteens being able to message each other and yell at each other and being able to say offensive things over the mics. In the end, I hope that most of the people that engaged in that ability grew up and very possibly only did it once to experiment and then never again. And I don't think Xbox is really any worse than any other online platformer, particularly when there's a bunch of frat boys playing first-person shooters and a bunch of just anonymous people. So I don't know if there's really any story to take from that. It will be in how Microsoft really starts to act, whether Microsoft starts to act particularly draconian with the enforcement of rules, which I think Microsoft pretty well knows that they can't get away with actually enforcing half the rules that they'd like to. Otherwise, they're going to end up banning more than 50% of the people on Xbox Live that either use messaging or chat. It's still very much, to me, as somebody who doesn't play multiplayer games, feels like it is a false narrative story that just gets pushed over and over again, that video game hostility is any higher than it was when people were playing against each other in arcades. There's always been aggression in playing games. That includes video games, and that also includes sports. And even if maybe professional sports has figured out a way to fine enough people for saying curse words or offensive language, the aggression certainly is still there and shown in other creative ways. So yeah, that's just competition. That's human behavior. So until you figure out how to change humans so they're no longer human, you don't solve that problem. Alright.
To me!
Engadget put out an article. Microsoft wants to make Minecraft easier for kids to read. It will add immersive reader to Minecraft Education Edition. I don't know what this means though. Specific images for words like creeper and mushrooms. So here's I guess where this is gonna come about, is that I guess the Education Edition has this text option where you can type in text and force people to read, even though you're tricking them into reading via Minecraft. This feels, if I was to guess, like a just kind of generic effort by Microsoft and Minecraft to continue to add content to Minecraft Education Edition, so more teachers would actually adopt Minecraft Education Edition as something, and that's something you really would need to do. Part of a teacher's job is sometimes, depending on the teacher, writing up lesson plans or writing up lessons in general. So if you're trying to teach something, you would need to be able to type something in and type a pretty significant amount of text into Minecraft if you're going to try and get them to play Minecraft that way. I think what they very much are risking is poisoning the well and convincing people that they don't want to play Minecraft when they're older by making it a kids game, or potentially making it an educational bowling game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a danger of a new generation of people that played Minecraft in school, in the Education Edition in school, and then would never play the regular Java Edition or the Bedrock Edition of Minecraft, as they see it as a terrible education product, which that's what the teachers are effectively going to do, is they're just going to ruin the game with all this text. Whenever a minion takes the image, game will attack.
Be thirsty.
And
Your magic shall not save
that.
To me!
This. And this. And that. Then return. So, yeah.
Come, my pretty.
I think some of the educational software, like Where in the World is Common San Diego and Oregon Trail, also certainly suffered from that same problem. I think Carmen San Diego in particular could have been a much better game if it wasn't so focused on being educational, and people would have wanted to play it if it wasn't so text-based and educational. Let's see. How are we gonna do this?
Die, mage.
This.
I can't win them all.
And this. Well, we got a victory there, so we might as well just keep playing. Moving on to the next bit of news, we have Final Fantasy XIV animation TV commercial series Choose Your Life begins airing in Japan. 14, I believe, is the online game. So this seems to be an anime to promote the online game. 14's new DLC Shadowbringers is due out for the PS4 and PC July 2nd. I'm pretty sure that Final Fantasy XIV isn't. Yeah, it's tagged MMORPG. We could, I suppose, step through this anime that I don't think is probably going to be too much of anything from the looks of it. Yeah, you can see there's definitely a significant difference in the way things look in 14 versus this anime style that's being shown at the beginning. So yeah, they're stretching the artistic style by quite a bit.
Greetings, friend.
This isn't by far the first Final Fantasy anime tie-in that Square Enix has done, and none of them have been particularly great. Or maybe one of them, maybe the Spirits Within movie is actually sort of worth watching, but you would kind of have to, I think, have a special reason to watch that anyways. And yeah, I don't think 14 is super successful. Maybe it's successful by Japanese standard, and that's maybe all they care about. But Square Enix in general still feels like it's run the Final Fantasy game series into the ground and lost its momentum by quite a bit because of the producer 15 leaving, and all they have to really sell themselves by are remasters and re-releases. Moving on, we have a game here on Steam called Rail Adventures, which looks like it's an asset flip game where you're on a rail and you can put your hand left and right and duck down when you're passing through fire. That seems to be all you do in this game. And I don't think that's particularly a fun game mechanic. It's early access, they want $5.09 discounted, English only. Yeah, this doesn't look like it has a gameplay concept that makes any sense. Just putting your hand out and hitting bottles or switches, I can't even really tell because of some dark screenshot syndrome. Here's a troll that you're just gonna crash into and take damage. Like, what was he supposed to do at that point? The game seems to not be finished or anything. Let's move on to the next game. Next game we have to consider is called Malcolm's Day, which looks like a close to MS Paint level animation game where you're platforming and shooting, and yeah, I'm not seeing anything here that looks visually polished enough to really interest me, and I don't suspect that the gameplay mechanics are super tight. This is the kind of game that even if it plays really well, I don't think a lot of people would buy it in the first place. It's $14.99 English and Italian. Yeah, that's way too expensive for this game. And my standards now are high enough that I would definitely not purchase this game or wishlist this game. Even if it is good, it's not going to be good at that price.
In your face!
Let's see, hit that. Next game we have to consider is called Forest of Evil, which looks like an MS Paint platformer that actually is MS Paint. Yep. Again, nothing visually here to sell the game, so even if it did somehow play amazingly well, which it almost certainly doesn't. I would never want to look at this game long enough to play it. $1.97 discounted, English only. And that too, not making it to the follow list. Next, we have a game on Steam that came out called Amazing a House in Kansas VR, which looks like it's a VR asset flip horror game where you're trying to escape. Seems like the house is twisting itself around in circles, and you're trying to escape before time runs out. So this really just, the way this is being depicted is specifically to hide how terrible it looks. It's flashing to black and flashing in. Yeah, there's nothing here. This is $3.99 and requires VR in English only. That's not making it to the follow list. Alright.
Let's blow this place sky high.
Summon
Well
2 1/1
played.
boombots for each bomb your opponent in your opponent's deck. Which I guess maybe they have no bombs in their opponent's deck.
That thing already attacked.
We do actually have a Bloodstained Ritual of the Night news story here. TechRaptor, PS4 and Xbox One players hit by a nasty Bloodstained Ritual of the Night bug. Pretty lethal bug. The bug blocks progress and forces players to restart the game. Patch 1.02 fixes it, but there's a big catch. According to the statement from 505 Games, which is, I believe, the developer of Halo, the issue occurs when starting a new Bloodstained Ritual of the Night game. Prior to patch 1.02, players will see some treasure chests in the wrong state. Some will be open, others will be closed when they shouldn't be. Without the items from these chests, you can't make progress in the game. 505 says the only way they find to fix the issue is for players to start anew. Now, there are some cheat codes that when you name your character, and so those cheat codes would allow you to what's the right word to say here? That they would allow you to have specific items given to you at the beginning of the game. So since this is such an early bug and it was caught so early, starting a new game probably isn't as terrible as it would be if this bug was found to be something that happens much later in the game. It is a great example, though, that even though Bloodstained was amazingly overfunded, it still doesn't seem like it quite has the polish or the bug fixing ability that a better produced, better run development would have from a AAA developer. That being said, that's kind of a that may not actually be the case. It's really going to come down to it's really going to come down to a few factors. If he draws a bomb here, I win. Alright, well then I may have lost. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, to wrap up the story, is available for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I think you're perfectly fine to play the game. I definitely would love to be playing the game right now. If I had the funds, I would probably put down Doom and never get back to it, or rush through Doom to move on to playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Bloodstained is releasing for the Switch on June 25th also. Which I imagine the graphics are good enough, or not so amazingly great that it would look terrible on the Switch. So I think you could play it on the Switch and gain that portability. But I think you'd be better off playing it on consoles or PC. In fact, there might be a really good reason to play this game on PC in particular, because it might be a case of there being yeah, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, it might be a case that Bloodstained Ritual of the Night gets a lot of support.
Greetings, friend.
In the mod community on PC. So after playing the game once or twice, you might be able to add a mod to change the layout, change the characters, and put a lot more life in this game. This probably is going to be the only Castlevania game that is going to come out and feel like a AAA Castlevania for at least 6 years. Moving on to the next bit of news, coming as what should be no surprise to anybody, TechRaptor has an article. Double Fine says Psychonauts 2 has been delayed until next year. Clearly, the development of Psychonauts 2 is troubled, and Double Fine has trouble finishing games. They've now sold themselves to Microsoft, so Microsoft will give them more funding and force them to actually finish a game. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft starts doing some layoffs eventually at Double Fine 2. I think they're going to quickly find that some of the people in charge at the top level of Double Fine aren't capable of finishing projects. And maybe it's not the upper tier management. I think it is. I think it's the guy in charge of Double Fine in particular. But I wouldn't be surprised if they also don't have any modern talent at the Double Fine either. And by modern talent, I mean people who know how to program things using modern programming languages and modern engines like Unreal or Unity. Which inherently, this is why all video game companies need to constantly hire new graduates and new employees instead of just hiring their friends 100% of the time who haven't learned it much in the past 10 years. Like, I would be very happy if I was running a video game company to have somebody be a spokesman if they worked at Atari back in the 70s. But I wouldn't for a second expect any employee who's probably in their 70s now to be able to program a game. They might have ideas, they might have concepts, but I doubt they know how to use Unreal or Unity or C++ even. I imagine they were programming in a BASIC or C or a similar language. you go. Is there anything else Techraptor has to say here? Here's a screenshot of Psychonauts 2. Let's see. I don't think Psychonauts 2 has a history of delay. The game was originally supposed to launch sometime in 2018. Is there really anything else that to say here? No. Psychonauts 2, when it releases, will be available for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It'd be surprising if... It'd be a little surprising, but not super surprising, if they decided to drop PlayStation support, and not just as a spiteful thing, but just as a practical thing, to say, yes, we could spend the extra time to make a PS4 port, but now that Microsoft owns us, let's just focus on Xbox and PC. I suppose that is the power that Microsoft holds as they're acquiring more and more companies, is they can say, oh, we're going to work together and we want to be on every platform anybody is playing on. But if Sony did something to really irritate them, I wouldn't be surprised if a commandment came from on high of Microsoft to say, drop support for all PlayStation ports of your game.
Somebody order a bomb.
This.
Job's done.
In return. Next we have a game on Steam called Summer Islands, which looks like it is just a SimCity simulator. It doesn't look particularly polished or interesting though, so I don't really see a reason why I'd want to play this. In fact, it seems pretty small and limited. Early access for $17.99, English and German, 2 achievements. That feels a little bit like an achievement game. Really, really expensive for what they're showing here. So, yeah, that's not making it to the fall list. Next, we have a game on Steam called High Scores Gold, which I think is a troll game from the looks of it. Yeah, it's probably a clicker game. If any of these images loaded, this seems to be a clicker game that is showing the demonetization image, and the monetization images, which would be actually green on YouTube. $197.99 with a 1% discount. This is full of quotes that are from Jim Sterling. I believe this is probably not actually a quote. So the English only. This might be straight up fraud if Jim Sterling did not say, quote, adorable, end quote, in reference to High Scores Gold. I could see him being sarcastic and saying that. Definitely. And perhaps there's a danger in having a personality and saying something sarcastically. But yeah, this is the first instance of a truly straight up trolling game to come out on Steam, and just by the price alone, $197.99. Steam Summer Sale is coming up. This, I heavily suspect, will be taken down rather quickly. But the fact that it was allowed on, the fact that it is set at a price that is 4 times more expensive than what any price really should be allowed to be set on Steam without somebody looking first and and it raising some red flags is an indication that the system to submit games on Steam is still a pretty flawed system. Well, we didn't get a victory there, so let's move over to the road thing. Next we have a game on Steam here called Trickster VR Horde Attack, which looks like it might be a slightly better animated VR fighting people game. It seems like they figured out a way to move the character around in jumps a lot better. So I'm seeing something here that actually looks like gameplay. So I'm gonna put this on the follow list. It's a free VR game, so maybe there's another part of this that they're trying to sell. Trickster games. Well, there's a Trickster co-op dungeon crawler so they've taken out the horde attack part of it and made just a demo, for lack of a better term. Then they've made one other game called, that looks like a kid's game, called Tanita A Plasticine Dream. This came out in 2008 and nobody even mentioned it. This looks rather creepy. But it's definitely an irrelevant game, and it's not even in VR. So, yeah.
Choose soon.
I'm gonna equip this and do this first, and then return. So I'll put those on the follow list as VR games. We don't get so many inside baseball stories after we stopped following GameIndustry.biz, but Gamma Sutra has an article. Azeron has purchased Spiel Games mobile game division. I don't know either of these companies. This is always how it goes, particularly when it's mobile games companies buying other mobile games companies. Let's see. Games like Uphill Rush, The Troll Face Quest, and Operate Now Hospital. Yeah, all games I have not heard of. Alright, so we can play this. Oh, we can wait. And I guess what we want to do is just wait. Next we have a game on Steam called Age of Pixels, which looks like a pixelated RPG maker style game. I'm not really seeing anything. By the way, video is not sped up on this. I don't have any way to speed up videos, so this has just been sped up by the creators of the game. Probably to hide the fact that the game is really ugly and really pixelated and boring. Early access for on sale, discounted for $6.79, English only. This is clearly a low effort game.
I wonder.
This is our town.
Here we go.
Yeah, beat it.
Next we have a game on Steam called Hardcore Parkour, which looks like it's a asset flip parkour game. Now, I might be willing to excuse that because, like, what would a parkour with realistic graphics really look like? I could imagine that on some beaches somewhere they do have events that look somewhat like this. The thing Mirror's Edge did, where they put a whole city around the parkour game, probably made Mirror's Edge more expensive than it really should have been, both the original version and Catalyst. So it's not widescreen, that seems weird. It's $9.99. It's English only. I'll give this a chance, but it does kind of feel like a asset flip game, and it kind of does feel like you're just actually real people doing actual parkour instead of taking it to the extreme of a video game where you do parkour. And so I don't know if there's an actual game in this or if this is really just a simulator with nothing else behind its name.
You're looking at me.
Here we go.
So yeah, seems like hardcore parkour does have a camera icon that if you touch you'll go into a special camera mode and some customization on the characters. So it looks like there might be a game here. This is really borderline though, so I'll put it on the follow list. Gamma Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Vicarious Visions, Square Enix and more are hiring. So Vicarious Visions wants a software engineer in Albany, New York. Brace for Yourself Games needs a VFX artist in Albany, New York. Insomniac Games wants a user experience researcher in Burbank, California. Square Enix wants an experienced game developer in Tokyo, Japan. It is also worth mentioning, I think I'll probably end up talking about this a little bit more, but it seems that Gamma Sutra wants people to upload their resumes to the Gamma Sutra job board if you want to work in the video game industry, which is probably not a bad idea, frankly. That being said, I imagine most new people are not going to get hired via the job board, but maybe. There is something definitely to be said about finding a specialized board if you want to work in a specialized field versus having your resume on something like LinkedIn, which is a very generalized resume website, although you should be on LinkedIn too. You should be everywhere and anywhere. Your resume might get looked at by one person in the exact same company and treated completely differently than the way it's looked at by other people at the same company. Like, it's very possible that somebody's just going to be in a bad mood, or they only spend like 3 seconds looking at a resume, so they may do a bad job. Moving on, we have a TechRaptor article here. First PC flight test for Halo Reach is tentatively scheduled for next week. Flight test in this instance, I assume, is an online beta test for just seeing how Halo Reach on PC handles its multiplayer connections and such.
This guy's toast.
Up to no good.
3, 3, 4, 1, 1.
Go shots! Go shots!
And transform.
Done.
There we go. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Subscription services unlikely to replace traditional games sales, says the WBIE. Who's the WBIE? Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. Which, yeah, Warner Brothers doesn't have a subscription service, or probably wouldn't work to make a subscription service. Let's see. I guess we hit that with that. Then we transform that.
Okay, follow.
And do that. And then are we going for +2/+2?
Hey, lights out.
Hit that.
Here
And
we
hit
go.
that. Let's go ahead and do all of these now. That way, if he does 1 damage somehow, he doesn't end up killing a bunch of people. Give me a spell. Let's see.
Job done.
The other thing I think is important to point out as far as subscription services and disc versions being sold, it's when you're talking Warner Brothers, most of their games are Telltale Lego games or the Batman games or the Shadow of Mordor games. So each of those not hyper online products or products likely to be bought through a subscription service. So yeah,
Must consider.
this probably is just that time of the quarter in which people are asking CEOs in shareholders meetings for companies, why are you doing it this way versus that way.
Quickly.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Grab Lab, which looks like it's an arcade style game where you have to use a grappling hook to maneuver yourself around, and looks a lot like Dig Dug, and it looks kind of uninteresting. It looks a little bit like Super Meat Boy. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything here of interest. I feel like this game also has already come out. 10% off for $4.49, a bunch of languages supported. I don't think this game needs to be on the follow list. Alright. So hit that. And
Farewell.
that.
Hey, lights out.
Here we go.
Next we have a game on Steam that clearly is another troll game. I don't see how you don't look at this and see that this is a Russian troll game. Early access for 59 cents. English, Chinese, and Russian. Yeah. No da. Surprise, surprise. It seems odd that these troll games are coming back up on Steam, but not super odd. I think they will just come and go.
Fight.
2 and 3. And I think I'm gonna have more news than daily quest to do today, which is weird. We need to play elementals so we can play mage. I hope there's some elementals in there. Next game we have to consider is called Bunny Reversey, which we already saw a game very much like this where it's bunnies for no reason playing a board game in 3D. The last time it was Bunny Minesweeper. Now it's Bunny Reversey for $1.59.
Begin.
You asked for it.
Seems like there's a whole collection of bunny games for no reason. Bunch of languages supported, $1.59 discounted. And we're looking for elementals. If I don't have elementals in my mage deck, I will have to look around and see, maybe even build a deck full of elementals. Since I just rebuilt all of the
Job's done.
decks, I don't know what cards are in any of them. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Bungie raises over $400,000 for Children's Hospital during a charity live stream. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. $400,000 is a decent amount, and they only seem to have really wanted to raise $150,000, which is a much more realistic amount that any one company could raise. It's still nowhere close to what larger Games Done Quick events have done. So it's kind of laughably small, but 400,000 is a lot. Apparently this is in part of a portion of something called Guardian Con, which started out as a Destiny focused community meetup, but eventually evolved into a full-fledged charity fundraiser, which frankly every meetup will eventually turn into charity fundraisers for tax write-off reasons, if nothing else. What's it say? Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Okay. But yeah, I don't want to downplay $400,000 to a charity that seems like a good charity. A lot of times the charities picked are questionable at best.
Signs of a war.
My hand is
Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article, Q&A after the Microsoft acquisition, what's next for Double Fine. I guess I don't really have time to read this, but there is a Q&A here. If I was to speculate, what they're saying is next, and what will happen next is probably completely different and completely unconnected. My suspicion, like I said earlier, is that Microsoft will find that there is some dead weight at Double Fine. There clearly is some dead weight at Double Fine. And that's not an intentional fat joke against the CEO or anything like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the upper management in general left Double Fine, got a golden parachute, and went and tried to start yet another company. It's worth mentioning that a lot of the employees at Double Fine were LucasArts employees originally, so this wouldn't even be the first time that they would leave a company to go start their own company if they did that. And I imagine Microsoft's main goal will be to maintain as much talent as possible at Double Fine otherwise, and have them make point-and-click adventures or games of a similar ilk, which makes sense. Like, there aren't a ton of point-and-click adventure game developers out there, so having them do something slightly different makes a lot more sense than having Double Fine employees, say, work on multiplayer maps for Halo, the next Halo game, which wouldn't make a lot of sense at all. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Aeon's End, which looks like it's a strategy, if not collectible, card game. It doesn't look particularly interesting or visually polished, though. It's early access for $17.99. It's single player only. Because it's a card game, and I'm always looking for good card games, I'll give this a chance and put it on the follow list, but frankly, it barely would deserve to be there. there's a lot going on this screen that I'd have to try and figure out what these moon phases are, and if that's what those are, what that means, and how that works.
The arcade.
Let's see.
Give that minion a turn to get ready.
Job's done.
Quickly.
Let's move on. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Swords, which is a pretty generic name. It's a free-to-play, massive multiplayer RPG according to the tags, but it looks like a old school, just almost text-based game. It's just a ton of text all over the place. Seems like the actual gameplay happens in a tiny window here. Free-to-play, online multiplayer only. Not my style of game for sure, so it's out. Well, that's one of 6 elementals. Let's just keep playing. See, next we have a game on Steam called Citadel, which seems to claim to be a first-person puzzle game,
You asked for it.
but to me looks like it's just an asset flip garbage game with some dark screenshot syndrome. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything visually impressive with this. $13.99 discounted, a whole bunch of languages supported. Yep. Elementals are what we're looking to play. See, Game of Sutra has a listing. Get a job. Insomniac Games is hiring a lead material artist. That's in Burbank, California. So if you're interested in that, you can do that. Look that up. Material design certainly is something in programming that I didn't think would be a thing, or I certainly never thought we'd have powerful enough computers to make video games to consider whether a material is a cloth-like material or a silk-like material or something like that. So that really, in the same way that ray tracing is taking the older way in which reflections and light rays were dealt or created, and doing something really different with it, and throwing out the old system that was bad and replacing it with a new system that is good but requires a ton of graphics processing. That's kind of where material was in previous generations of programming. Moving on, though, we have a game called Iron Sight Asia pre-OBT version. I don't know. The server is for Asian territories. Iron Sight is a free-to-play first-person shooter. Very fast-paced. This is mixed. It's free-to-play, in-app purchases, English and Korean. So it's not for me, I guess, because of Asian territories, which means it probably plays terrible everywhere else. I wouldn't be surprised if it plays pretty terrible in Asia too, and there's a distinct dishonesty in the way it's being sold. I don't see anything particularly interesting in Iron Sight anyways. I guess the one thing to look about is to see if they... Yeah, there's no other game even from this publisher. So if they were going to have a non-Asian version, it's not on Steam. Next we have a game on Steam here called Trial that looks like it's a 100% text game with just graphics on the side. Yes, this looks like total garbage. Early access for $8.49, discounted, English only. Yeah, we're still very much in the section of not having great releases. And I don't think that that's particularly going to change anytime soon. But maybe in a month or two we'll start seeing some great games. I would also say I have some speculation that some of the games that are on sale right now and in the last week or so that you're seeing weekly sales for, probably not going to be discounted at all during the Steam Summer Sale. And there definitely is a percentage of games that do that every time there's this big Steam sale. And that's annoying, certainly, because you never really get a major amount of discounts from those games.
Let me show you the arcade.
Go. Next we have a game on Steam here called Focus on You, which looks kind of like a Japanese, maybe Chinese game, one of these ones where you're hanging out with somebody, a VR virtual girlfriend experience. It looks pretty polished though. Getting a lot of bits of video here. It almost feels like there might be a murder mystery around this at some point, but I don't think so. It's just, I think, hanging out with your virtual waifu girlfriend.
What to do?
Would require VR. It's coming soon, apparently, but then you can pre-purchase it for $26.79, which is particularly expensive for... It's not really expensive for a VR game, but it is expensive for this. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually extremely short and actually pretty bad. We've seen other instances of games like this where they've charged, well, this one's $50 for instance. So there's precedent that has been set for this. I don't know how many people are going to fall for multiple versions of these things though.
This one's a real page turner.
So what should I do with this? Well, it's not out yet, so I guess I don't put it on the follow list.
My hand is too cold.
Let's see, Gamatsu has an article. A game called Gabuchi is coming to the PS4, PC on July 18th. Let's see. What is this game? Looks like just box characters. Yeah, looks like an uninteresting arcade style game. I have no interest into looking at that anymore, or looking into it anymore. Let's see. Ah man, I could have played this, done that, and then played the spell.
Job's done.
Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Hunt the Thailand Hidden, which looks like a VR game, but I have no idea what this is. Is this a VR hidden object game? I believe it might very well be. Let's see.
From nothing, power.
Like, find the hidden objects in the room. It's barely translated to English. It is a VR hidden object game,
Get in there and fight.
which is something I would have really liked to see, but it's done really badly here. It's free to play, I guess, and it's English only, so I'll put this on the follow list for its uniqueness, but in almost every scenario I would never play this, even if I did have a VR headset, because of just how short I imagine the game is and badly designed the game is. And pretty obviously terribly translated the game is.
Someday I'll be just like you.
See, next we have a game called Ariza, which is one of these terrible marble games in neon colors, which is unimpressive. I kind of like the idea of a circular end gate, but I guess that's just really the moon in the skybox and not an end gate. Yeah. $17.99 discounted for this game. That's ridiculously expensive. English only. That's not making it to the follow list. Alright. I should have killed that by far. Gamatsu has an article here. PlayStation VR romance adventure Focus on You launches July 5th in Japan and in Asia. So this is that same game. Apparently it's a PlayStation VR game too. Experiencing heart-fluttering conversations, unforgettable school trips, and many other emotional moments. I could certainly see that there are people out there that did not have good experiences in their youth, or the experiences they would have liked to have in their youth, as far as a romantic interest at all. I could see particularly Asians being so focused on schooling that they didn't have time to date, and so this might be an attempt, or a style of game in an attempt to capture something that never happened, which is definitely in the realm of fantasy. Like, that's exactly what every other game is. I didn't get to be, for instance, a thief in a castle like this game, Rogan the Thief in the Castle, or a knight, and so I play games like that. I didn't get to be the Doom guy in Doom, so I played Doom. I didn't get to be the Master Chief in Halo. Is this a VR game? Yes. This is a VR game that is coming soon, and frankly, this I've seen before. So it does look like they've updated their page now, and you are seeing an actual video, where before I don't think the video was very properly done. This woman with a metal mouth of some sort. This looks like this might actually be a game, but I'm starting to wonder if we're seeing an instance where they found a way to manipulate the Steam release list, and they're just trying to get people to pre-order or wishlist games more often again. And that's going to be really annoying if we start seeing the same game pop up week after week after week. There have been ways in the past to do that, but it wasn't affecting what's on Steam Twitter feed, because they were changing the release date by a week and basically pushing back the release date of their game every week to be on the upcoming games list. This is something different. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box HD for mobile is now available in the West. So $9.99 via the App Store, iOS App Store, or Google Play Store. So I think this is probably the beginning of us seeing a lot more Japanese mobile games that are good coming out to the West. And this probably, as we see more games being made for mobile platforms and slightly less games being made for consoles, it's probably the beginning of more Japanese companies in general just releasing games worldwide instead of sticking specifically to Japan or the East. Moving on, Gamatsu, the Alliance Alive HD remaster screenshots, video, and Japanese box art. We saw this game earlier, but I did not have a clue what it was, so I wanted to kind of see what this is. To me, it seems like it is a kind of chibi anime JRPG. And the screenshots here are not really dissuading me of that concept. Yeah, I'm not really sure this is the kind of game I'd want to look at this chibi art style the whole time. Particularly if this is an HD remaster of a 3DS game, which is what it is. Yeah. In a weird way, the fact that Game Boy games and 3DS games and all portable games have been allowed to be made, there's a whole category of games that are subpar art that we've been willing to accept in exchange for portability. Now with the Switch, we've finally hit a point where we say now we won't accept subpar art and instead want portability with decent art. And even then, Nintendo Switch still is slightly subpar art. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Caladrius Blaze for the Switch debut trailer. It's due out July 18th. This looks like another JRPG style game. Let's see if we can actually see any of this. Actually, it looks like it's a shoot 'em up. It's a shmup game. Clearly the game is boring because the trailer's not even bothering to really show any gameplay at all. It just barely flashes a bit of gameplay here and there, but it's trying to sell itself on the side art and the anime characters, and yeah, that's pretty typical, I think, for the shoot 'em up.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Trying to burn through all this news. I don't know if I'm really going to be able to do that. This next game is tagged sexual content nudity, so let me just look at all the screenshots. Nope, it looks fine. So, we have a game on Steam called Sogetsu Ninja Kikyo. It says it's an RPG indie. It looks probably somewhat basic, but it does kind of look like it is a dungeon crawler style game with RPG elements. Yeah, and dialogue too, so a little bit visual novel-y.
What to do?
So it's hard to believe the accusation that all adult games are not being allowed on Steam. Now, arguably, this Ninja Girl is about the most mature anime style girl you're gonna see. $9.99. I'll put this on the follow list and see what people have to do with that. It's tagged with sexual assault and prostitution. So it's certainly not holding back, it doesn't seem like. done. I guess the real accusation was that games with anime characters that look like they're in school uniforms were not getting allowed in, and I guess I haven't seen an example of that allowed in lately. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Layer Land Story Remake, and then a bunch of Asian characters. This is probably a Japanese game by the art style, but it might be a Chinese game that's just done really well. This looks like a life simulation strategy game where you're running the character's life. I don't think English is supported here. $13.49, English not supported. Chinese with full audio Japanese. So I would call this a Japanese game. But I guess I can't put it on the follow list because of it being it not supporting English, so leave it where it is. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Aqua Plus launches a mysterious countdown website ending June 25th. This is from the Utawaramo series developer, so who knows what it is. This is a tease on a tease on a tease.
Ooh,
Not really a story I needed to mention at all. So we lost there, no big deal. Alright, we played our 6 elementals we needed to do. That covers us for the European account. Now we just go over to the Asian account, and I'm not even sure I have enough news to cover all of that. We have a game here on Steam called Stay Silent, which looks like a VR cowboy simulator of some sort. Although what the silent element on that is, I don't know.
Gather round, everyone. The fun's about to start.
It looks visually polished somewhat well, and it seems like you very possibly will be shooting at monsters or demons or something. Now, I just saw something here that's an interesting idea. Lightsabers showing up for no reason. So, I saw a footprint detector. And if this is a VR game and you have to move around, yeah, there's basically a Doom demon wandering around here. If it's a VR game and you have to move around, and you move around by scanning people's footprints and following it, that would be an interesting way to fix that problem. Now, here's the problem. Why this game can't go in the follow list: it's multiplayer only, so there's no single player experience here as far as they're concerned. I suspect there might be, but apparently not. Alright, what's the chances? A rogue, a warrior, or 6 mix? Let's roll that. Battlecry cards. Alright, we'll try with warrior, and then, well, you know what, try with rogue. That's probably better chance. It's a shame Stay Silent looked a little interesting. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Little Witch Academia VR Broom Racing announced. Little Witch Academia being the anime looking game that is made by Netflix, so it's kind of targeted at little kids and targeted at Western little kids, so it always feels a little off. This would be the second game I've heard of from Little Witch Academia, and the first game was mediocre at best. A VR Harry Potter flying around broomer flying game, though, is a smart move. It's probably a lot smarter than the action-adventure RPG they made before. So, yeah, there's something I think to be said about that as a concept. If it's a somewhat cheap game, then that would be helpful too.
Job's done.
Let's go ahead and end our turn. TechRaptor has an article here. GameStop reveals the top 10 most pre-ordered out of E3 games. According to their list, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cyberpunk 2077, Borderlands 3, Legend of Zelda, Star Wars Fallen Order, Gears 5, Mario Maker 2, and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Now, in all fairness, I think it's worth pointing out that there probably is a considerable number of games GameStop doesn't take pre-orders on, or games that GameStop doesn't have any kind of interest in, so that could shift the top 10, but probably not by much. TechRaptor has another article here. All the Harry Potter Wizard Unites microtransactions. The last Harry Potter game was full of microtransactions. Here you can get gold for $100, up to $100. What the gold is used for is questionable. There's also several other kits which look like skins. The SOS kit for $1.99 and $10 skin kits. There's also juices and elixirs that you can buy with gold, so you would buy more gold to get the elixirs. So if it costs $25 for a healing potion and to get 25 gold you have to spend 99 cents to get 80 gold, you would, I imagine, need healing potions quite often.
Here we go.
So far, the microtransactions seem to be on par with Harry Potter Wizards Unite, but how the game is actually designed is going to drastically affect that. There's microtransactions in Hearthstone, for example, but it's just buying cards, packs, and if there's another way to grind gold, like there is in Hearthstone, you may never need to use any microtransactions for the Harry Potter Wizards Unite game. A bigger question certainly would be, do you want to play a Harry Potter version of Pokemon Go and get into something new? Particularly when most of the fans of something like Ingress or Pokemon Go probably are still playing Ingress or Pokemon Go. I don't think that the game is significantly different from those games. TechRaptor has another article here. The latest Fortnite files include 20 new limited time modes during the 14 Days of Summer event. So Fortnite is working its way towards some kind of challenge quest things. You could read this article yourself, I suppose, if you care about Fortnite enough. For me, as somebody who's just keeps a general eye on it, it just tells me that Fortnite is still big enough and popular enough to justify getting special modes and extensions and added elements and work on it, which is not surprising in one bit.
This guy's toast.
Job's done.
Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Obsidian and inXile vied for Baldur's Gate 3 rights alongside Larian Studios. So this is really a story that 3 different companies were fighting to get the rights to Baldur's Gate 3,
How much is this worth to you?
which doesn't really mean anything at all. Like, even if Baldur's Gate 3 is total garbage when it comes out, people trying to get the rights to a game means basically nothing. Like, they're always bidding for the rights to games. Maybe they weren't bidding seriously, maybe they weren't bidding a lot. That's the kind of story that you really would only be helpful and informative in a historical perspective after Baldur's Gate 3 has come out. It's not particularly noteworthy as the game isn't out. It's really just a hype-making game article at that point. So, and kill. Gamma Sutra has an article. Anthem's rocky launch hasn't dissuaded EA, says its CEO. I don't think there's anything really else to say with that. Of course, the CEO is going to say Anthem is doing fine because they're still trying to sell Anthem, but I think most people are pretty sure that it is totally going into maintenance mode and very little effort is going to be put into it.
This is our town, scrub.
Evil is fun.
Here we go.
There we go. Open Critic has a report here. Friday the 13th, the game is headed to the Switch. This is particularly surprising because Friday the 13th, the game was supposedly not supposed to be allowed to be sold anymore, or that they couldn't put any more work into it or add any more content to it, and I don't see how you can sell the game when people are disputing the rights over Friday the 13th and whether they properly had the license or were given the license by somebody who didn't own the license in the first place. This really spits in the face of their statement that they couldn't add anything to it more or work on it anymore because of that lawsuit. It really goes to show that this game never had the budget that it needed to make a proper Friday the 13th game. And I don't even know what it would really take to make a proper Friday the 13th game, but they certainly didn't do it. And this was only going to be like a fan project of something sort of like a Friday the 13th game originally, and they were given the license for, I think, free by the creator, who maybe doesn't own the license to Friday the 13th. But last I heard, as an asymmetric horror multiplayer game, it's not being played by anybody, so moving it over to the Switch, I don't think is going to build a player base. In fact, if you were to actually buy the game, I think you're going to be horribly disappointed in a buggy experience, I would guess, and a empty experience where you're not able to find enough players to make a match. And probably going to run into a lot of people that want to play as the killer in Friday the 13th, Jason, and will just rage quit and leave as soon as they're not assigned as Jason. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job, Giant Army is hiring a remote graphics developer. This is a remote position. I don't know what Giant Army is. Something about Universe Sandbox, a game on Steam. So it's a small indie company. If you're a new programmer, this might be an opportunity to work or get in on the ground floor of working in a video game company. Build up your resumes a little bit. Here's that article I talked about before, Gamma Sutra. PSA upload your resume to Gamasutra's job boards. It's easy, just click here, upload your resume, and make it searchable. So, suppose we could click here, and then immediately they want your email and a password to create an account. So, yeah. This almost certainly is the trade-off of any service like that, where you have to trade your email or some email. But I imagine for Gamasutra, the appropriate thing to do there is to use your professional job email address, the one that probably should forward to your real email address. Use that to make the account also. That way everything looks nice and professional, and it's not something, it's not smoke weed every day 420 XXX at Gmail. That's the kind of stuff you don't want in a job email thing. I'm still trying to play Battlecry games. Cards.
Here we go. My hand is full.
Valve released a new game on Steam, Dota Underlords from Valve. Mostly positive, early access, free to play. It doesn't seem like you need anything else. I don't think you need Dota anymore. I don't think you need a Dota Battle Pass. I'm gonna put this on the follow list. This is Valve's version of Auto Chess, and okay, we are there, I guess. I'm not sure there's really a reason for me to cover this. This is super popular and well known, and clearly it's 79% popular right now. I'll just put it on the follow list and see if there's any historical reason why I'd want to play it. I don't think it's ever going to go away from being free to play. I suspect it might have some in-app purchases at some point, because, you know, Valve would do well to prove that they can actually make money on their developments and not just releases of making money from their Steam storefront. Come on, come on, come on.
Behold!
Alright, play this.
Who goes there?
Play this.
Here we go.
And hit that. Next we have a game on Steam called Escape First 2. This looks like it might be a VR racing escape game, or horror escape the room style game. It looks like it might be somewhat visually polished. Yeah, it probably is mostly something I would just call an asset flip horror game, but there might be something here. It's $5.09 and apparently doesn't require VR. So yeah, I'll put this on the follow list and see if Escape First 2 is worth playing. I kind of assume that there's an Escape First 1, so in that instance that game was well received. And they've got several games here that are either well received or mixed, which is not a terrible mix of releases for a VR developer. Alright, so I didn't do a significant amount of Battlecry cards. I'll try Warrior. We did do the Tavern Brawler though, so We were supposed to open this pack. Again, unless this gives me a legendary, it probably isn't going to give me anything useful. Well, an epic might be something I don't have. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is an epic I already do have. Yep. Come on, disenchant extra. Yeah, that was an extra epic. So it gives me a little bit more dust. And now we're gonna try warrior and hope that the warrior has some more battle cry cards. Let's see, custom warrior. Tech Raptor has an article here. Final Japanese Nintendo 3DS game Mobile Ball has been cancelled. This is the 3DS, not the new 3DS or the new 2DS or the new 2DS XL. There's so many different versions. It's hard to keep on track of all of that. The naming convention itself is very confusing, and I could see going to a GameStop and trying to buy a used, like, new 3DS and getting tricked into buying a used 3DS at a major markup. So, yeah, not super surprising that the last game got cancelled. A little surprising how quickly that happened, considering how Vita is still getting games made for it. Next we have a game on Steam here called Rocket Border, which looks like it is someone standing on a flying platform in what I guess is the VR equivalent of a shoot 'em up. Might be something to this. It does fix the moving aspect and turns it into an on-rails game.
What now?
How you would not have to lean to move your ship is questionable. Are you just on rails at all times, or is there some kind of button that moves your rocket boot thing? This looks polished enough to deserve a follow. Early access requires VR. $2.79 also. English, that's actually a little too cheap, but I'll give it a follow anyways. I'm gonna be generous. Let's see. Draw a card, I guess. I guess that's what we'll do with that. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The global esports director Kim Fan has departed Blizzard. After more than 13 years at the company, she has stepped down as the director and left the company in favor of a new endeavor elsewhere in the game industry. Almost certainly, I would guess she has been poached to work at Second Dinner, the company that is making the Marvel card game. And I guess the Marvel card game is the game we're going to go to. Like, that's almost certainly what we're going to do. Day one, I will probably play the Marvel card game when it comes out. In the beta even, I'll try and play it. I want to get in on the ground floor this time. This is bad news for Blizzard as they lose more and more high-level talent and are struggling to find, it seems, even replacement talent, let alone enough money to keep their business running.
Unity, precision,
There we Gamer Switcher has an article here. Monument Valley dev Us2 appoints 2 new leaders to help a multi-project transition. So they've expanded their board in an effort to make more games and have multiple projects happen. I believe Monument Valley has a deal with Apple Arcade too. Yeah, there's an Apple Arcade exclusive called Repair and another unannounced project. So I wouldn't be surprised if Us2 as a company slowly grows into a medium to large independent developer instead of a small-time mobile creator, which is really what I would call it right now, is a small-time mobile game creator. TechRaptor has an article. Apparently, in the mid of all the loot box debate, the creators of GTA Online have decided to add a casino that is coming soon with the Diamond Casino and Resort. And I assume the casino will gamble with the in-game currency of GTA Online. And if that is the case, then you can buy that in-game currency. So, that seems like this is not only a loot box controversy, this sounds like this might be a straight up casino being run. I don't know how you call it in much of anything else.
I want you, and you, and you.
It definitely feels like they are going right into the casino business. Maybe I'm not really reading everything here, but maybe you won't be able to play with the in-game, and so you're playing with like a secondary currency. But even at that, GTA has already courted a lot of controversy in its lifetime. To go sleazy again, it seems like a bad idea. Next content is a visual novel tagged. Next game to look at is a visual novel tagged sexual content. So I'm gonna skip through the trailer and the screenshots. Alright. Battle cry. Silence. Battle cry. Nothing. So next game we have to consider is called Lou Game Lunchtime Games Club, which I assume Lou Game means like Ludo narrative game. This seems like a Western animation style for a visual novel with Western looking characters. Now, here's an example of a Western animation style with a character that is in what to me looks like a school, in what to me looks like a school uniform, and that seems to have been allowed. This again looks like a school uniform, this looks like a school, so okay. But frankly, let's be honest here, there's always been a dishonest kind of anti-Japanese sentiment to what's allowed on Steam and what's allowed or acceptable in the general narrative for people who are upset about adult games, dating sims, sex games. They've always been fine when a Westerner does it with a Western animation style, and not fine with the when a Japanese developer did it. Even when Japanese were doing a very 90s Japanese style. So it's not even the moe art style in itself. Like, that's interesting. Alright, I screwed that up. Didn't realize the coin wouldn't work that way. So as for loot game, it's 25% off for $5.99. It's English only. It doesn't have full audio. It has 87,000 words, which is a little short. It's approximately 7 to 8 hours long. I think it deserves to be on the follow list until we can get some reviews on it. I'm not holding my breath to think that it's an amazingly great game, but it does look interesting. I would also want to point out you've got the redhead petite body style. You've got the tan blue hair twin ponytail style. You've got a long hair pink large busted body style. You've got wavy red or orange hair with a medium kind of petite body style. There's a lot of variety in different girls to pick here, which you often don't see in visual novels. Usually it's the exact same thing over and over again. Right. 10 damage to that. Next game we have to consider is a game just called Bugs, which looks like a low-effort MS Paint simulation game where you're either trying to exterminate bugs or you're playing as the bugs trying not to be exterminated. It's $5.39 discounted, English and Italian. I don't see anything here of interest. Deck's not empty. This. And then this. And then this. Done. And then in the turn.
Thanks.
Next we have a game here called Infinitrap Remastered. This looks like kind of a low effort looking dungeon crawler, maybe with some platforming and jumping going on too, but it does have a bit of a Zelda feel to it, but I'm not really impressed. It also seems to be a dark screenshot style game. Have kind of a spelunky art style. Speaking of art styles, apparently StarCraft is releasing a mod skin from like a animator, a somewhat well-known animator that makes StarCraft 2 look very cartoony and silly, and it looks really interesting. So I don't think I have an article about it, but if that interests you, I would say search it out. There's probably quite a few different mod skins you could put on StarCraft 2. As for this early access game, Infinitrap Rehamstered is what it actually says. It's $13.42. It says it has full English audio. It's discounted. I don't see anything here in the screenshots enough to catch my attention now. Alright, trying to see what this does.
Did you?
Alright. And play this.
I'm almost out of cards.
I wonder if he has Mechathune, and that's what he's playing for. I have plenty of cards still. Next we have a game on Steam called Bon Voyage, which looks like it's a kind of asset flip strategy game. It says it's a casual puzzle game, but I would call it a single screen Unity puzzle game. Although compared to a single screen Unity game, if any of these images would load up, this is actually way better graphics than what you normally would see. This feels more like a slide puzzle game where you have to slide around the path. Well, I guess there might actually be something here. Even though it is a single screen Unity game, there's way more polished than the normal one. It's $4.49 discounted, it's English only. I'll put this on the follow list and see if people like it. Alright. Play around with this. I think I might get a fatigue win at this rate. So, next game we have on Steam is Super Neptunia RPG. This is a more old school 2D RPG style game for the Neptunia series compared to their usual 3D series. Apparently, all the remastered version of the original Neptunia trilogy got a new DLC character, so if you wanted to play the game all over again as that new character, that seems like that's something you could do. Or maybe you don't have to play it all the way over. I think you have to get to level 2 at least. This is mostly positive. This I'll put on the the wish list directly because I own most of the Neptunia games anyway, so I might as well just keep on supporting the creation of Neptunia games. Neptunia games being teen-rated, slightly lewd, cheesecakey games with RPG anime girls in it, and references to video game consoles. If I play this, it just returns this character, so I just played out of order for no reason. I kinda need the fatigue to kick in to win here. Tech Raptor has an article here. Pokemon Shield and Sword is a master ball of fun. People were putting up some of the comparisons of Breath of the Wild's animations of trees and general areas versus this is the character that people are allegedly getting upset about. The comparison of Breath of the Wild's trees and the level design for all of that compared to what is being shown with Shield and Sword, and it is more evidence to the theory that Game Freak is just not spending a lot of effort to specifically have a good, polished, well-made game. Let's see. Alright, well, this. And then this. So, yeah. Yeah, I think for the target audience, and it's mostly important to take that, and that's where I think Tech Raptor is coming from this opinion piece. It's not a real review. For the target audience, this is the best Pokemon yet. The target audience being little kids, and this being their first RPG game that's a real random battle RPG game. I still would probably suspect playing Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee is a better experience, though. Let's try Tempo Rogue again. Tech Raptor has an article here. Maneater is a shark RPG worth sinking your teeth into. This is developer interview. TechRaptor had quite a few of these, and these are just like, these are the games they saw at E3.
You asked for it.
Maneater might be a good game, or it might just be a joke game. It feels like it's 50-50 to me. It really is just going to be what the final version of that game actually is. Moving on, we have a game on Steam, Million Arthur Arcana Blood. I assume that there is a fighting series called Million Arthur. I know Million Arthur was one of the characters that was in the all-female fighting game that I can't remember the name of. So, yeah, this is a mostly positive fighting game for $39.99 already. It's from Square Enix. Looks like a fine fighting game, as one of those SNK style fighting games. I'm gonna look at the more games like this and see if the Tag Team Frenzy, it's something Tag Team Frenzy, but SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, I believe, is the name of the game that Million Arthur was in, or Thief Arthur was in. Yep, so one more fighting game to be on the list of fighting games potentially that I'll cover. Although I doubt Million Arthur Arcana Blood is in the top tier 10 fighting games as far as relevancy. So it'd be a hard choice to cover that game. But if I got really into fighting games, or if I got the game really cheap, maybe there would be a reason then to cover it.
Who goes there?
Sorry, I needed to take a break to drink some water. Although I don't know why I just apologize for it. I should probably just stay silent and drink the water and move on as a natural expression. If I was just talking to people and I took a drink of water, I wouldn't inherently apologize for it. Right. This is what I want.
Who goes there?
And then this.
Hold it!
Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Funcom brings horror and humor to E3. This is, so they're talking about Conan Chop Chop, which looks kind of like it's a Conan game, but if it was drawn in MS Paint. So there might be a game here. This might be like a Binding of Isaac style game. And then Moons of Madness, which looks like a Cthulhu-esque sci-fi game, which we'll just have to see how that comes out and if that plays well. We're still getting remnants of people doing their write-ups, as they're called, writing up what they saw at E3.
This guy's toast.
So, little bits of articles here and there. Alright, next we have a game on Steam called VICCP, which says it's a simulation horror game. What is this though? Very important central control panel. Seems like this is a joke game at the very least. This is $8.49 discounted, English and Russian. It's probably a Russian troll game, but it's kind of hard to tell. So I'll put this on the follow list, but I'm fairly certain that this is a extremely low effort garbage game. I really can't do anything else with it.
I take this.
How much is this worth to you?
I'll take that.
Yeah. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. A character action game called Luca Born of a Dream is coming to the Switch July 3rd. I've heard nothing about this game, so if this is a PC game, that's new to me. And I didn't watch all of the Nintendo Direct, so maybe this was squeezed in there. Or maybe I did see this and I just have completely forgotten about it. It's already on Steam and rated very positively, so I guess I should add this to the wish list and check it out. Because, yeah, it's been out for a while and I just totally missed it. This, and this.
Choose soon.
Gamatsu has the same article. Million Arthur Arcana Blood for PC now available. We don't really need to show off that article though, since we just looked at the game. Let's see. Play this.
How much is this worth to you?
This much damage. Had some lackeys. Deal 2 damage.
Here we
Attack
go.
here. Attack here. Gamatsu has an article here. Omen of Sorrow for PC is now available. This looks like a fighting game. It's only on the Epic Game Store for $19.99. I guess that's why I didn't see it. Okay. A fighting game on the Epic Store. Probably not that great of a thing that you need to jump out and play, because the player base is going to be pretty low. It does have cross-play with whatever consoles it's been released on, but I don't see a mention as far as what consoles it is already out on. Free new characters and stages are coming, allegedly. I mean, you can't really take that to heart until it really happens.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'll take that.
Job done.
There we go. Alright. Yeah, it's crossplay with the PS4 version as well as local multiplayer. So there was a PS4 version. Yeah, I don't imagine you're expanding your audience by much if you are just releasing on the Epic Game Store. This almost certainly is a bad deal for Epic for whatever they paid for that exclusivity. We may be done after this game. Here we have a game called 1980X, which looks like a beat-em-up brawler. It's already rated positively. Looks like might be a collection of different styles of games. I feel like this was already released. It's $9.99. Maybe it's out of early access or something. I'll put this on the follow list, I guess, or put it on the wish list. I want to look at the reviews on this because I'm a little iffy on this, but not that much, and it does follow having more than 20 reviews. Yeah, and just like that, I believe we are done. We have a few more things to talk about news-wise. There's a game here, Esports Life Tycoon. It's mixed reviewed already, early access for $11.99 English and a bunch of other languages. And it seems like it is a Sims style game that probably doesn't play any well as good as Sims, and is just an example of somebody. It's a great example of how even if you were an esports superstar, you're really just doing a job, and so then you're playing a game where you're doing somebody's job. Yeah, and this is not the type of game I'd ever want to play, so I'm not going to put it on the wish list, particularly since it's rated mixed already. It's not going to get better, my guess is. Next game we have on Steam is My Friend Pedro, which I've heard described as a John Woo shooting simulator, action movie simulator style game. I'm not sure I particularly see the mass appeal here, because it seems like this is pretty repetitive. That being said, a lot of people have rated it very positively, and it doesn't seem like the game is particularly hard, so I'll put this on the wish list. It's discounted for $16.99, which might be a little bit more than it's worth for depending on how long it is, and supports lots of different languages. That's an example of a AAA, an indie AAA style game coming out about a week after E3. Next we have a game on Steam called Super Pig X, which I think is almost certainly a Super Meat Boy clone, garbage, low effort game. Not something that I'd really want to ever play, or that I think has a chance of being good. It's $4.79 discounted, English only. So yeah, that's not making it. Next we have a game on Steam called Malltown, which looks like a tower simulator game in VR, which I think probably would ruin the idea of the game. And it seems like it's not just a tower simulator, but also a tower simulator and a city simulator, which how that works I have no clue. It's $10.19 discounted and English only. I'm not going to bother to put that on the wish list or the follow list. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Dragon Quest Builders 2 builds upon its predecessor. That's good. I still don't know if there's really a reason to play Dragon Quest Builders, though, as a Minecraft clone with just the Dragon Quest characters in it. Not a lot of real information there. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Asteroid Run. No questions asked, and it's a blast from the past as it is a complete text-based adventure. Haven't seen one of these in at least 6 months, it feels like. $3.89 discounted, English only. Not a game that I think should be on Steam. If we were really gonna curate Steam, I would get rid of all the text-based games first. Those would be so easy to get rid of and nobody would miss them, I don't think. Gamatsu has an article here. Sword Art Online game series producers gather for a live stream set for June 24th. My guess here is that there will be yet another Sword Art Online game announced. No big surprise there. Maybe one of these days one of them will be great. See, this next game is tagged sexual content and nudity. and the images are slightly censored, but there is a particular one with a oozing tentacle that I think I'd prefer not to show, just for YouTube family friendliness sake. YouTube is thinking about putting all the kids' videos only in the kids app and taking them off YouTube in particular, as the FTC is investigating them. And if that happens, that could very well improve the experience as a YouTube content creator for adults like me quite a bit, but we'll just have to see what happens. This game I'm looking at is called Fantasy Girl. As for what the game actually is, it's tagged as a strategy RPG game. To me, it looks like you're probably playing the game where you draw a box around a square and cut out more and more parts of the box while there's like a bouncing ball or bouncing around. Fantasy Girl is 59 cents. It's full of anime characters. And they're in different outfits, not schoolgirl outfits though. It supports a bunch of languages. It says it has 12 CGs, and so that's 12 images you're paying for at 60 cents each. That's pretty expensive. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called 7 Lives, which is a visual novel. Might be a Chinese visual novel. How far you're zoomed out here implies to me that this might be Chinese. The terrible background implies to me that it might be Chinese. It just feels kind of low effort in the animation style. And there's a bit of inconsistency between just the size of this guy and how this guy's animated and the size of this, I assume, girl. It says $1.79 discounted, which is way too cheap for a visual novel. It's English and Spanish Latin America, so perhaps this is an example of a Western person trying to do a indie visual novel and not being able to really animate things. This probably isn't even animated. This probably is a real image that's just been messed with through Photoshop or painted over and traced. If I was to guess, there's nothing here that tells me this would be a good visual novel though, so it just doesn't have the polish there for that. And we only have 2 more, or maybe 1 more. Next game we have here is Stellar Survival, which is positive, a first-person shooter tower defense. It says it does have some visual polish. It looks like a real game, so I guess I have to put this on the follow list. It's early access, it's free, English only, single player only. Well, this looks more than just an asset flip. It might just be an asset flip, but I'll put it on the follow list. Then that should leave me at the Humble Bundle. So let's see if there's a new Humble Bundle out right now for video games. I don't believe there is. Yeah, I guess maybe the Humble Store has a sale going on right now, competing with the Steam Summer Sale, but that's kind of seemingly all they're going to do. Epic Games Store just tweeted 28 minutes ago, our offices will be closed from now until July 8th for a summer break while we recharge our batteries. Happy gaming. We'll see you in 2 weeks. The idea that Epic Games, their entire offices, will be closed for 2 weeks is ridiculous. There's no answering service, there's no secretary, there's no manager or something. That seems really, really crazy. To shut down an entire office for 2 weeks. Frankly, you do something like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually going to box up all of your stuff and fire everybody at that office, or if somebody would just break into your office and rob it. You just told the whole world on Twitter for 2 weeks nobody's going to be there. One would assume that there might be a security guard or something that's there, or maybe some construction or remodeling that would happen there. Here we go. Here's a big story we'll have to get into before we can wrap up. I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed right now and had 15 more tweets, and it looked like there wasn't going to be any more tweets. Borderlands 3 has a bunch of stuff to sell you, certainly, but as far as merchandise, but that's really not anything else to say. Dead or Alive 6 is available for purchase. I think it was available for purchase for a while ago. But the big story here is, here we have this game on Steam called The Expression Rialto. This was the game that claimed to be an Esperanto teaching software, where a girl goes into a different universe and she can't speak anything, and they said it absolutely had no sexual content in it whatsoever. But then in the trailer that was shown, you have the girl clearly having a somewhat romantic relationship with the other girl, and they're sleeping together, they're taking baths together. There's something slightly sexual even in this image, and they're kissing each other. So I mean, that was definitely a straight up lie by Manga Gamer. And Manga Gamer said that this game was infinitely delayed because of Steam's ununderstandable, unspecific rules, and it's now on Steam. So all I can take from this is that there was yet another rogue employee that was not following the standard and denied this game, and it caused it to be delayed for a brief amount of time. That being said, and that being Steam's fault for having these rogue employees that seem to have a hate for Japanese visual novels, particularly maybe ones where it's girl on girl or guy on guy. This really, I'm not even seeing any instances of them being in school uniforms, so that argument gets thrown out the window. That was never a legitimate argument in the first place. So maybe Steam has fixed that problem, but also Manga Gamer needs to check themselves before they wreck themselves and not lie about what this game is, because it's pretty obvious that this is a visual novel game that maybe teaches Esperanto, and for that reason alone I'll put it on the follow list. But it's definitely also telling the tale of two girls that fall in love, and there definitely is some sexual content in the sense that they're kissing each other, bathing with each other, which is not hyper-sexualized in a Japanese society, but there's something to that to take as something you should recognize and realize that might look awkward in the rest of the world. So there's like some drama here that now apparently has been wrapped up. I'm still not sure if Manga Gamer games are really worth playing, and I'm still not sure if you can get the 18 plus patch, which inherently this probably does have an 18 plus patch without logging into Manga Gamer's site. And clearly Manga Gamer wants you to go to their websites to buy all their products, and that seems to be the focus around making that drama happen. So as it seems, it doesn't feel like Steam is back into the iffy part, unless we start seeing other publishers other than Manga Gamer being upset about being delayed or denied games. Clearly, if Steam had completely rejected that game, it wouldn't be on Steam a week later. It just wouldn't. So there's some level of what's being said and what's being done that is different, either from Steam or from Manga Gamer's side. Well, that's going to be it for this stream. We got everything done. As far as daily quests, it's back to playing Doom 2016. Thank you for watching. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Remember, the Steam summer sale is coming. If you subscribe to my channel and want notifications, remember you have to click the bell and go through all the rigmarole to get the pull down, so you actually get all notifications and not just in ones that YouTube wants to give you. Thank you for watching. Have a good